Well, skuktash everybody. Anya nyapchigi Gabriella Cazares Kelly, bismochkuk amjad, Anya woodka Pima chukshak ohahalam. Hi. My name is Gabriella Cazares Kelly. I do prefer to go by the name Gabriella. Thank you very much. Or Recorder Cazares Kelly. All of those are fine. I kind of reserve my family nickname for family events where they make fun of me still. So, that's a very interesting question to bring up. The term between Native American, American Indian, Indian, First Nations, Indigenous, those all have different connotations, and it's very deliberate for many people. I would say that American Indian is kind of an older term. So there used to be an organization called the American Indian College Fund. They have rebranded their name because recognizing that there are other Indians in the world, and they are not from the United States. They're not from Native American. Native American specifically refers to the United States. Indigenous is native to an area without regard to the border. So I am Thana-Autham, and actually that is most often how I refer to myself. I'm Thana-Autham. I'm Thana-Autham first. If I'm talking in general terms, I will then say I'm Native American. But for me, truest is always the name of my tribe. Again, Thana-Autham. Everybody say that? Thana-Autham. Close enough. So I am the first Native American, so a general term again, because that means not just the only Thana-Autham person, not the only member of my tribe, but from any tribe to ever be elected in Pima County government. I do refer to myself as Indigenous. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Thana-Autham land, I think Green Valley, you guys have been doing some work. And so I think you all may know this, but the Thana-Autham Nation, which is the size of Connecticut, our ancestral homelands include this area, include the Tucson area, we go up to Phoenix, we go down south into the border, all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. So we are all on Autham land, but we didn't cross the border. The border crossed us. And so therefore we refer ourselves to as Indigenous. The term First Nations is typically associated with Canadian Indigenous folks, but Indigenous and Aboriginal can be used anywhere. So I am also that too. But so are Aboriginal people in Australia. And so it really does, for people like myself, Indigenous people, people who are in rooms with other Native people, it is a quick way of us to determine what affiliation you have or what part of the world you're from. So, thank you for allowing me to take that moment to share that. I don't always open up my presentations with it. Usually it's like, let's get to the election law, okay? But that's also what I do. I am the Pima County Recorder. I was elected to office in 2020. I took office in January 2021. I've been in office for almost 6 years now, which is wild. I'm in my second 4-year term. Common question I get is if there are term limits. There are not. My predecessor had 27 years in the office. I don't know that I can make that commitment at this time. But there's plenty to do in the recorder's office. It has been a whirlwind, but it has also been a dream job. And I see the impact of my presence in the office, not only in Pima County, and I hope you all see it too, but also within the state and even nationally. And it's been a lot of, it's been very powerful, and it's been a lot of fun. And very hard work. We're very tired. Slide. Okay. Katie, you will be able to send this PowerPoint out to everyone afterwards, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this has a know who to call, but this document is also available on our website. This shows the separation between the bifurcated system that Pima County has between the elections department and the recorder's office. For you, which is relevant today, the recorder's office is responsible for voter registration, anything having to do with your voting record, signature verification, early voting, anything that is before election day. We are also responsible for petition signature review, which we'll be doing a lot of that with those if they get challenged, a candidate if they get challenged, or statewide initiatives that you may be signing. The other responsibility that my office has is recordation of public documents, primarily public documents that are property related. We do not deal with birth certificates or dog licenses or anything like that. The elections department is responsible for the design of the ballot, which means they are the ones interacting with the candidates. Anything having to do with candidate finance, they provide us the ballots, we mail them off. We signature verify, and then they tabulate. Okay, that's very important to know. And so for the purposes of that, this conversation, I will leave it at that. Please feel free to review this document. It is on our website, and also it will be in the PowerPoint. You can take a look at it. Next. Okay. I was asked specifically to talk about a few things. One of the major changes that we have had recently is in 2025, we switched from a 2-envelope return system to a 1-envelope return system. That now means that your signature is visible on the outside of your ballot, and your address, our address is on the other side of that, meaning you only get 1 envelope. You put your ballot in the envelope, it comes to us. Next slide. I have an entire op-ed that I personally wrote that explains the 2-year process that we spent reviewing our options. One of the really important things for you all to know is we have 680,000 registered voters and counting. It's amazing. If we count the inactive voters who have like addressing issues, it's in the 700,000s. In 15 years, we're going to be over 1 million voters. We have to be preparing for that now. Part of the reason that I made the choice to move to a 1-envelope system, number one, a ton of people were making mistakes. They were putting their ballot in return envelopes rather than the ballot affidavit, and they would send it back to us, and sometimes they wouldn't even put their return address, so we'd receive a ballot, we didn't know who to contact to tell them that they did something wrong. We had over 750 voters do that in the last presidential election. And if we're talking about a race as important as perhaps a congressional, Martha McSally and Ronald Barber's, I think it's 134 votes. I think that was the difference. And so that's quite significant. The other thing is the 2-envelope system was incredibly physically demanding for our staff. To open up all of those envelopes meant to have them milled. You have to peek in there to make sure that if there's something wrong, like just a ballot is in there, we need to keep the outer envelope so we can do some investigation, hopefully find that voter. We would have to go through these processes stage by stage, and it would result in your ballot not being able to be scanned in for maybe 2 to 3 days. With the change to our 1-envelope system, we are now, as soon as we receive that ballot affidavit, you have a very high likelihood of it being scanned that same day, if not the very next day. So that means anytime people are having anxiety about whether or not their ballot has returned, they can actually look it up on our website and say, hey, they got my ballot. Or if you sign up for our text alert system, we will actually send you a text or an email saying, hey, we got your ballot. That is a major peace of mind for voters, and we've seen a lot of people responding very positively to that. Now, the problem with the visible signature, I do want to assure people that in order to do anything nefarious with your ballot, with your signature and even your phone number, a bad actor needs to have much more information than that. They need to have maybe your driver's license number, maybe your birth date, your full social security card number. All that information which is protected under state law and which we do not release to the public. So it's very, very important for you to know that. The other thing is we are working on installing ballot drop boxes throughout Pima County. Currently I'm working with Sahuarita Town Hall to install one there, and that one we are looking to install it as a drive-through. So you wouldn't even have to get out of your car on a hot July date where it's 110. So we are looking to make those changes. I also recently participated in the National Postal Forum. It's talking with the United States Postal Service. And the way that they talk about their safety protocols, they have a U.S. inspection service. They have a police unit within their department that is specifically charged with investigating any type of crimes, and of course anything having to do with election mail. It is hammered into the staff that that is to be kept as secret as possible. So they are going through extraordinary measures to ensure the safety, security, and swift processing of your information, and we pick up those ballots directly from the post office. So, next slide. We're going to go through a quick life of the ballot. What happened to my life of the ballot?
Well, I can do that. This was before.
Oh.
Do you want to talk about that, or do you want to move on?
Oh, well, I guess this was the the affidavit that I was. Has everyone already seen this? You should have already seen this in the Regional Transportation Authority election.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Next, life of an early ballot. Okay, so I have handed out flyers to you that have the life of an early ballot. And so this is essentially the same flyer. It is just made for PowerPoint presentation purposes. The first thing that is important, again, the U.S. Post Office. We have sent couriers to the post office, bipartisan teams. Anytime we are interacting with your ballot, we are using bipartisan teams. That means people from opposite parties, whether that be a Democrat and a Republican and an a Green Party and a Democrat, whatever. We are using two people from opposite parties. Our staff are required to wear lanyards that indicate what party they're from. We have red and we have blue, which are common knowledge. And then we have a purple, which is either our independent, Green Party, Libertarian, or no labels. So any of those third party parties, we just group into the purple. Otherwise, we're singling people out for being green. We have the U.S. Post Office. We have mail drop-off. The site-issued ballot drop boxes, and now our official ballot drop boxes, all of which are 24 hours a day. They're open 24 hours a day and open the entire time during early voting. Again, number 2 is bipartisan courier teams will be assigned. They are required to sign all documentation, and our staff take it very seriously, because we will look at that documentation, and often, and we hammer this into our staff members' heads, is we get public records requested for this information. There needs to be a paper trail of what you were doing, when, where, and with who. We receive your ballot affidavits at our secure ballot processing center. Currently, it's located on Valencia and Country Club. However, in 2027, we do plan to move that ballot processing center to a location that is more than double the size. We're very excited. We're bursting at the seams. Is immediately, once we receive your ballots, they are immediately placed into a secure ballot room. That secure ballot room has a swipe key authorization. It has cameras throughout, and we literally post a guard, not an armed guard or anything, but just usually a designated person. That way they have line of sight into anything that anybody is doing in this room. So if we don't have a bipartisan team, we cannot enter that room. And we keep this room so secure, I don't have access to this building, to this ballot room. In order for me to do that, I have to request a supervisor who is issued the keys, only select individuals who have access to the key box, and et cetera, et cetera. I cannot enter that alone. So once we receive them, we sort them and put them in order. We are usually just putting them all so that they're facing the same direction and that they can be scanned by your affidavit. Every once in a while we have to pull ones out that are maybe damaged, or sometimes people put weird stuff in their ballots, honestly. So we have to segregate those. But then we have a ballot scanner. It's an Agilis. It's a $300,000 piece of equipment. And so a lot of people, when we switch to the one envelope, they ask me, well, couldn't we just do like a little flap that you tear off? We investigated that, and actually in the postal forum, the post office says they hate that because those little flaps get caught in the equipment. And I just purchased this $300,000 piece of equipment. Can you imagine little bits of paper flying all over the place? Absolutely not. We need this to be working and functional. Any type of delay is just catastrophic for the office. We do have backups, but the backups mean we're hand feeding handfuls of ballots to be scanned, and it is not pretty. Next. Pardon me, can you go back? When your ballot is scanned, there is a unique barcode on every single person's ballot affidavit, and that actually ties your ballot affidavit to your voting record. And that means that if there's more than one ballot for one person, there's an error that pops up. It is literally impossible for us to accept a second ballot for any person. So we have to either resolve the first one or the second one, whatever the situation is. This is at the point that if you are signed up for our ballot alerts, you will receive a text or an email. I will tell you that if we are working outside of normal business hours, I think the last text messages, I think we send them out like no later than 7. So sometimes you might not get that notification until the very next day because we don't want to text you at whatever hour in the morning. Next. The next process is signature verification. And we have changed the way that we do our signature verification recently. It is always going to be done by a human being, but we now have the ability to, instead of holding up a ballot affidavit and looking at your voting record and holding up an envelope to the screen, we are now just able to put both images up on the screen. And this has helped speed up the processing. It means less people are touching your ballot affidavits. If somebody were to drop a tray of verified ballot affidavits, they would then have to put every single one in the order that it was accepted. And that happens. There's a lot of moving parts in our facility. Something like that is just a huge strain on time. And so for us to be able to do this means less hands on your ballot affidavits and it means we're able to signature verify quicker, and we can continuously transfer ballots over to the next department. I see a question. What?
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
I have a hyphenated
Oh.
last name.
We're going to talk about this. Yes.
I have a middle name. In the previous state I lived in, I had to sign what was technically my legal name.
I am going to go over signatures in just a minute. Yes, and this is very important. Once your ballot affidavit is signature verified by a human being, they click that they accept it. It goes on for processing. If not, if the staff member is looking at your signatures and they cannot determine that it's you, they're going to send it to more experienced signature verifiers. We call this a second check. If the second check is unwilling to take your signature, and we tell our staff, you do not take anything that you are not willing to back up in a court of law. Because if I get asked, why did your staff member accept this signature that clearly doesn't match? I have to go to court to explain to a judge why. So they take it very seriously, and when we tell people, if you're not comfortable, you pass it on to the next person. And so it will go from your baseline signature verifiers, many of which have been doing this for years and years and years. We actually have some former staff members, like supervisors, who come back just to be in the mix of the election. They love it so much, and they work with us. So we have highly qualified signature verifiers, and we go through multiple signature verification trainings prior to every election. So it'll go to second checking. Hold on 1 second. And then if it cannot be determined by that second person, it goes to the ballot curing team, which may actually lead to you being contacted by our office. That may mean that we are calling you, texting you, emailing you, sending a postal letter, and we're going to do that every week during the early voting period. And as it gets closer, sometimes we get a little worried. We're like, this Steve person has never called us back. Who lives in the household with Steve? Is there a household member? Oh, Mary? Let's call Mary. So we go through extraordinary lengths to contact you. And the phone number on the outside of your envelope, everybody's on perks up. That number is only used in that scenario. We do not keep that number. We do not update your record. There are so many people who have had maybe you have a landline. Maybe you registered to vote 30 years ago, and you have never changed your address or your party or anything like that. Your phone number may still be the same, and it's likely not in service anymore. Or you may have changed it 8 different times between then. I have had the same phone number for 25 years now, but my sister, literally every two years she has a new number. I don't have it memorized anymore. So we may be contacting you. The way that you can update that, and I strongly urge you to visit our voter dashboard and take a look at what number we have on your record. If we have the correct number, you can leave that number off of your affidavit. We're going to look at your record to call you. But that space is there because of the high number of people who change their phone numbers on the daily. Okay, once it is verified, we do an audit scan, so we put it right back through that scanner sorter. It removes any of the ballots that have not been accepted. And then we do a physical turnover, which is where we print up rosters of 50 with all of the names in one batch and that bundle. And then we have 2 people of opposite party, because we're handling your ballot. We have 2 people of opposite party confirm that every name on the roster matches every single name in the stack of envelopes. Once we do that, we literally put them on a cart and we prepare the documentation, and we roll them over to the elections department. The elections department has one of those kind of like hotel doors where we have a door that opens and they have a door that opens, and then, you know, we can knock. We can't go in their space without them opening. They can't come into our space. And so we will come together, we will do a physical transfer, and they will start processing your ballot. They will open your ballot affidavit and then prepare it for tabulation. Every once in a great while, we have something called a red line. And for any of you who have taken a look at the reports on our website, you'll see red line. And like, what's a red line? Or why was my ballot not accepted? And often what this is an individual, let's say Steve again. Steve finally gets his ballot in. We confirm his ballot affidavit. We never open the envelope. We transfer it to the elections department where they open it, and inside we find a shopping list or ballot instructions. It happens more often than you would think. People maybe they're out talking on the phone or talking to family members while they're trying to put their ballot in their envelope, and they make a mistake. For any of those, the elections department is going to say, whoop, Steve made a mistake. We're going to give this back to the recorder's office because, again, they do not have your voter information. Only I have your voter information. So they're going to give it back to my staff, and my staff are going to contact you. Okay? That's why it's really important to make sure that your information is up to date and correct. There was one question over here. Yes?
I think I was getting confused with like when there's actual election day and they sign, because we all sign those things now, but
Yes.
you can't read them.
Yes.
So, but what is the initial, on the envelope, that's the signature compared to when you registered?
Yes. So when you register to vote, and I'm going to go over this in some detail now, every single time you submit your voter registration, we are collecting your signature. It is considered your signature sample. We cannot make any changes to your voting record without your signature. Okay? When you vote on election day and you sign the poll pad, that information goes to the elections department because they're facilitating election day, but they share it with us. And so if we stop processing ballots the day before election day, we come to a hard stop where we've turned over everything, and if we have anything in hand, we might process it, but we're not going to do that final turnover. Okay? What we're going to do is on election day, we're going to, we're not touching any of those files. The day after election, the elections department is going to bring us the voter rolls. They're going to bring us that signature pad of who signed on election day. We are going to accept those as those people have voted. We are putting in their credit, and we are not going to accept a ballot affidavit from them. So we give them our information prior to the election that says these are all the people that voted early. So if we've already accepted a ballot affidavit, a mail ballot, and you go to vote on election day, you would be given a provisional ballot because we're already showing that you submitted something back. So it's a way of us talking to each other and ensuring that the voter did participate in one way or another. Once we have downloaded all that information, we remove anybody, and this happens. Sometimes people get really antsy. They mailed on a Thursday, and on Tuesday before election, they don't know if we receive their ballot. They get nervous, and they'll go vote again. We just won't count the second ballot. So if they voted on election day, our system will say, voted on election day, second ballot. Okay? Yes?
Are all the mail-in ballots not counted until election day?
Oh, this is a great question. So I do want to clarify, this is an election department question. However, I do know the answer. So this is not my department doing this, but I will share. The elections department, as soon as we start transferring ballots over to their department, they begin tabulating. However, it is against the law for them to generate any reports that share information about, not even share, even the elections director does not know the outcome, so they tabulate, they do not generate results, all the way up to election day. Election day numbers that come out at 8 p.m. by law, that's the first time that they're able to generate that report and post it online. That 8 p.m. report is all of the mail ballots that we've received and processed up until that point. So if you are voting on election day, or if you are dropping off on election day, there's a high likelihood that your ballot is not in those original results. Please return your ballot early. If you wanted to be a part of those results, return it as soon as possible.
Okay, just one more
Sure.
before we get too far away from the post office, because there was a lot of heartburn when there was an article about how they're centralizing, so ours doesn't even get postmarked until it goes up to Phoenix. And so how does that work when you're working with the Postal Service to pick those up?
Okay, we have had a lot of conversation with the post office about this. For Pima County specifically, outgoing mail, your ballots are trucked down here from Phoenix. It takes, I think, 3 semi-trucks to bring down the number of ballot. We're sending out 500,000 ballot packets. So it's 3 or 4 depending on the size of your ballot. They get dropped off at Cherryville Post Office and get distributed that way. Any other ballot that comes back has to go through Phoenix. However, it could be same-day turnaround, and they prioritize ballots.
They do.
That's why your ballot is the color it is. It's to make it visible, and as soon as, because it is listed with election mail, our printers work with the U.S. Post Office. We have to go through an approval process to get the appropriate barcode, and it is treated as, it's not first class, so we don't always have postmarks on your envelopes. We don't always receive that. But the barcode, the USPS has an amazing system. They're actually able to track your ballot. And if there's a situation where people are having, some type of situation like all the people on my block, nobody received our ballots, and there's some kind of conversation like that, we can actually call the post office. They will look it up. They will go down to the delivery driver and figure out where your ballot is. And so it's very sophisticated process, but again, it is treated as very high priority. And the week prior to elections, they go into what they call their extraordinary measures, where they will literally hand pull those ballot affidavits to ensure that they aren't going through the full stream, that they're getting pulled as fast as possible so that they can be processed in a faster way. So we are picking up ballot affidavits, even though we say you're recommended, it's 7 days, please mail it back. We have people who put their ballot in the mail the Monday before election. So we're pulling, though, they're pulling them by hand and they're transferring them. It tends to taper off, but we always have we pick them up in the morning and then on election day at 7 o'clock again. And anything processed after 7, so sad. We can't accept that. Okay?
Yeah, and it feels good to feel that you're confident about that.
Yeah. No, it's a very, we're so grateful for the post office. I know that there's a lot of questions and people are very upset, and I'm upset with you. I think that specifically the United States Postal Service is in danger of being privatized. Privatized, meaning not public. And that privatization is really, this is a corporation, this is a corporate interest type of move. It is millionaires and billionaires deciding what everyday people who rely on the mail can do. And so they're trying to starve the U.S. Postal Service by taking away their resources. But I will tell you that these individuals are incredibly dedicated to ensuring that your ballots are safely and securely delivered and handled throughout the election process. Yes?
Okay, I'm still not quite sure, if somebody mails in a ballot and then comes in and votes, what keeps their vote, both of those votes from being counted? I mean, do the people at the poll know that the ballot has come in? I might have missed something.
Yes.
Yes.
So, yes, I got it.
Okay.
So the question is, what's to keep people from double voting? So if we receive a ballot by mail, and we have signature verified it, and we have turned it over to the elections department, you, in our system, will be marked as having voted. The day before Election Day, we transfer all of that data of who has already voted by early ballot to the elections department. They download it onto their electronic poll books, the iPads that you see at the Election Day voting locations, and it will show you, it will tell you, this person has voted already. If a person has said, absolutely not, that's not true, I didn't vote, I insist on submitting a ballot, well, it's their job to issue ballots. They're going to issue that person a provisional ballot. What that means is a provisional ballot is a safety for you. A lot of people will say they have like this common perception that provisional ballots don't count. That's not true. It is a safety for the voter. It is the fail-safe. It gives us time to investigate what that situation was and why this voter is maybe a little confused.
But at that point, would you be able to pull the mail ballot if that was the fake one, without it being counted?
No. We would have already either accepted it or not accepted it, whatever the
But would
situation.
you have counted it?
Yes. And so
So
hold on. Let me finish with that. The most often we see this type of scenario where somebody has insisted that they voted when they haven't. This is most generally in our elder population. Our super seniors, thank you, we love you and appreciate you all. And to be fair, in 2025, we had 6 elections. We had 6 different elections in Pima County. And there were some people who were receiving ballot affidavits before they could even mail back their other ballot affidavit for different elections. 6. It got to the point where people were, I'm not even sure. Did I vote? And that's not the super seniors. This is everybody. People were so confused because they're just oversaturated. They're like, yeah, I voted. Wait, did I? I almost forgot to vote in 2024. It's a very busy job. But no, we have those fail-safes, and we have not yet run into a situation where we counted a fraudulent ballot, and then somebody tried to go vote on election day. We have not encountered that. So in the 6 years that I have been in office, we're not seeing that type of behavior. And we're going to talk about the signature verification. No. So we're going to talk about signature verification. First of all, what is in a signature? We currently utilize the Secretary of State's Signature Verification Guidebook, which is available for public viewing on the Secretary of State's website. We are looking for broad and local characteristics that match your voting record. This is kind of an art form. In fact, we liken this often to being able to identify a Picasso. There are elements that everybody is thinking about what a Picasso might look like. And there's specific characteristics of like, oh, yeah, I do know what that might look like. We are not looking for an exact name match. Your name does not need to be exact. A very common question I get is, do I have to sign my middle name? No, you do not. But we need enough of a sample of your writing to be able to make that determination of what your signature actually looks like. We recommend signing as you did for your driver's license. The majority of you are going to have your driver's license record transmitted to us. There's very few people that do not. And so we're going to have whatever your signature is on your driver's license, we are likely going to have that on file. Okay? Signatures change over time. We all know this. When we have brand new voters who are 18 years old, often this is the very first time that they've signed anything. They're not accustomed to signing their name. They probably haven't even figured out what they really like. And so this is taken from my personal voting record. And you can see, this one is actually my oldest. I need to move it. But you can see my little 18-year-old signature where I spelled every letter and I put every loop into my signature. And of course, as you go through life and you become more and more accustomed to signing things, you develop a more common signature for your name, and you start to see that developing. Within, you can see it here and here and here. They're pretty consistent and pretty loopy. My name is Gabriella O. Cazares. But then I got married. I got married, and now my name is Gabriella Olivia Cazares -Kelly. Accent mark over the A. Very long. It's very long. And you know, when I first got married, you know, ooh, I got married with little hearts around my name because I have those, you know, feeling. So I'm Gabriella Cazares Kelly now, and so I really cared for a hot minute what my name looked like. But then I had to sign more and more things. You know, anybody who's purchased a house knows that you're going to sign that thing like 50 different times, and you're not going to want to put all of those little loops in there. And after a while, I started not even liking, especially being an administrator of an office where I sometimes have to sign literally 100 documents in a row to allow for, you know, us to turn on the internet for remote sites or something. Gabr C. Kelly. I misspell my name. I don't even finish it. But there are still enough of the same characteristics to determine that that is the same signature, correct? Yeah, all right. Oh, one more. Go back.
Sorry.
This is my last ballot affidavit because, as I said, I sign things every day as an administrator. And now it's just G.C. Kelly. Every once in a while I forget and I do G.C.K. It's getting shorter. But those characteristics, my staff are trained that they must have at least 3 characteristics that they can specifically point to. And if they cannot, they have to take it over to a second checker or ballot curing. And if not, it goes to a supervisor. And if not, it goes to an administrator. And if not, it goes to the chief deputy. And if not, I might be reviewing that signature. We go through signature verification training. We are literally going down to the minutia of the pressure of the pen on your ballot affidavit. We are looking at the slant, the spacing, whether there's hesitation marks. It's a whole science, and again, an art. So I saw there was a question in the back.
Well, so many students now do not learn how to use cursive, so their names are printed, which to me is not a signature, because I'm old and I expect it to be in cursive.
If you were to print your name in the area that is marked signature, and your ballot affidavit has a signature that looks like a printed name and it matches, we will take it. Because we are looking for whatever you make as your mark. I really wish that I could show you some of the more interesting signatures that we have on record. I can't do that because that's a violation of law and privacy. But I have one voter. He draws a tree next to a house, and that is what he signed for his voter registration form. He drew the house and he drew the tree, and it has very unique characteristics. And so when we get the affidavit, we're like, the tree guy. And we can see, because it's the same type of tree, it's the same type of house, and it matches his style. And because of that, we accept it. My husband's signature, I should ask him for permission to show what this is. I can't, I've tried. Maybe a long time ago. Not now that I'm an administrator of voting. But I've tried to duplicate his signature, and it is so hard, I cannot do it. But it's like a messy R with a squiggle, and I have tried and tried and tried, and I just can't understand it. I can't do it. That is his mark. It doesn't have his full name. You can't tell that it's Orion. You can't tell that it's Ormond or Kelly. You can't tell anything. It's just a blob. And, you know, if any of you have ever gone to the doctor's office and gotten a prescription, and you see the little squiggle, that squiggle is distinct. And as long as we have something like it to compare it to, we're going to accept it. So print versus signature, the only situation where we would maybe run into that is if somebody signed their voting record, so their voter registration form, and then try to just print their name. If there is not a comparison, if we do not have that on hand, we cannot accept it. And so we will call the voter, we will tell them they can resubmit another one, and then we will also recommend, if you have two signatures, and I hear this a lot for business owners in particular, you have your personal signature and then you have your business signature. And sometimes those are different, and people will say, I don't remember which one. I don't remember which one to use. And again, that is why I urge you to take a look at your driver's license. Okay? George?
What's the process for voting assistance on signatures?
I'm so glad you asked that question. Next slide. No, this slide. Okay, so for voting assistance, I have on here Joe Voter. They were assisted by Sarah Assistant, and Sarah Assistant's information is there. It is appropriate if you are handling somebody else's ballot in any way to help them, to assist them in voting, you should put your information there. For example, when my late mother voted, I would often read her the ballot. She would have very lively things to say about the candidates she's seen on TV, and then she would tell me her choice, and I would mark her ballot. It was her decision, but I was filling in the dots. And then she really had a hard time being able to read the small print. We have an option for having a huge, we call it a tablecloth. It's literally like a 6 feet tall, large print ballot. My mom didn't want that. She felt comfortable and trusted me to be her assistant, to mark her choices, even if we didn't agree. But she was accustomed, even though she had low vision at that point, to be able to sign her name, and we usually gave her a permanent marker because it's a thick line, and she could sign her own name. I would still put my name because I assisted and I helped her assemble it, just in case anybody had any questions. Rosella had help. Okay?
And that's right there on the ballot?
Yeah, it's right there on the ballot. It explains that.
Second anymore?
Yes.
Okay.
If there is a person who maybe they're filling out their own dots and they're filling out their own signature and everything looks okay and all you're doing is putting the ballot into the envelope. That's up to you and that person to decide if you need to put that on there. I would say it's always safe to be able to do that. However, if your signature has diminished and changed in any way, when we think about that, signatures, very easy for signatures to change over time from that immature signature when you're learning and you're getting all the loops and you're putting the hearts and everything, to a more practical. And then later, if you are experiencing, you have a broken hand, a broken arm, or maybe, just as you're aging and maybe unable to sign things in the same way that you always have, or maybe a tremor or anything like that. As long as it has the same characteristics, we're still going to accept it. However, if we get to a point where we cannot recognize your signature, we're going to call you. And we're going to say, did you submit this ballot? Was this you? We're going to confirm it's you, and we're going to talk to you about it. And if there's any changes that need to be made, my staff will inform you. But a lot of times people will say something like, I have a disability and I'm always going to require assistance. I don't want you to call me every time, just accept it. We can put a note on your record. For instance, I know of a blind couple. He had sight early in his life, and so he learned his signature, and he has a muscle memory. If you write your name in with your eyes closed, you still know how to write your signature, and it'll resemble your actual signature. However, his wife was born blind, and she never knew what her signature looked like. So she doesn't have a muscle memory of what her signature should look like, and so it's going to look different every time. Well, she has decided, I don't need to have an assistant. It's going to look different every single time. Until I want you to call me, I'm going to just ask that you not call me. And so we have a note in her record, and we see hers, and it's different from what we have on the record, but she has a note. We don't ask any additional questions. We just accept it. Okay? But again, that is up to you and how you feel safe about the decisions for your ballot. Every person is different. No, one back. Please note, this one has just an X. If somebody has a stroke, but can still verbalize or communicate, maybe they're blinking their options, I don't know. If they put just an X, that is fine. And recently we've had questions of well, what if somebody's like a paraplegic? They still have the ability to vote, even if they don't put that signature there. However, we will be calling to find out why. Again, that is probably going to be accepted at a higher level within our office, but it will be accepted.
Slot, they have a special blue box that's picked up. Does that make sense?
I don't know what the post office is doing that is different from, I hadn't heard that. Is that for the Green Valley Post Office?
That's what they were telling me.
Green Valley Post Office has told me is to take it inside and have it stamped with the current date, and they'll put it in a special box.
Oh, okay.
So there are a lot of post offices in Pima County, and I think there is well-meaning people everywhere. I can't speak to that direction in particular. That might be an internal process that maybe that's how they have determined that they're going to segregate your ballot affidavit immediately rather than have it in the mail stream. I don't know. That I have not heard that. I will reach out to our postal liaison and ask, report that and ask about that protocol. But from what I'm aware of is all mail that enters the mail stream is going to be handled the same way. So, yes.
Well, and the last time I submitted my ballot, I took it to the post office and said, this is my ballot. And they said, they hand took it and said, we will put it in the bin to go directly to Pima County reporters.
I'll
It
ask.
didn't go through any quote equipment.
I will ask about that additional protocol. I don't know. That isn't something that I'm aware of. And that could have been the extraordinary measures during that last week where they're hand pulling. I don't know. It's gonna vary by post office. It's gonna vary by the day that you return it. I mean, we sometimes get people who receive their ballot on the day they're mailed out, and they mail them back that same day, which is amazing. I did that this year. I'm so proud of myself.
Are you talking about drop boxes?
No, well, that too. Sometimes we have people come in. We have the mail drop in the morning, and we'll have people come in the afternoon because it's processed so fast. And they'll drop off their ballot affidavit. But no, we don't have any special coordination with individual post offices. Our point postal office is Cherryville, and so we go there and we receive all of the ballots there. And just so you know, every single ballot that we receive, it has to go through some type of machinery because we receive a receipt, and that's actually how we're charged. So if they're not going through a machine to get scanned, like, how are they charging us? Like, that, it doesn't make sense to me. So I don't know quite what's happening. I can't speak to that in particular. But every single day, the post office will send us an email that says, you have approximately 20,000 ballot affidavits here. It is approximately 15 trays. And that way we know, how much space we need, which vehicle to take or anything like that. Or if it's a small number, you have 700 ballots here. Like, oh, maybe we should wait until, we don't have to jump to go do that. We can wait a little later in the morning or something. So, we good? Okay. So accessible voting options, I just wanted to highlight this. These are all of your voting options. This is literally, these are all of the ways in which you can vote. You can vote by mail one time. Let's say, for example, you are an election day voter. You love going to vote on election day. That is your thing. You're very proud to do it, which I support you doing that. Or maybe you need additional services like Spanish language, or you need somebody there to provide you with some assistance. Whatever your preference is, I support you in doing that. But let's say one time you're going out of town, and it's the one time that you're not going to be here on election day, and it's an important election and you need to vote. You can request your mail ballot, even for the election that's upcoming. We have a primary election and we have a general election. If maybe you're only out of town for the primary, you can request just that ballot and then vote on election day as you normally would. So you can do a one-time mail ballot request. You can vote by mail every time by signing up for the active early voting list. This is strongly recommended for those of you who are in a political party. For independent voters, we rarely use the term independent. Most often, in my office, we say no party designated. Or if you're a part of a party that is not recognized, like the spaghetti party. I'm not even joking. The Jedi party, whatever, anything. I'm serious. Those are things that people have written on voter registration records. Those are not legal recognized parties. You will be considered no party designated, and you, for the primary and the general, are eligible to vote. However, you do, if you're voting in the primary, have to request which party's ballot you would like to participate in. And there are 3 options right now. You can vote for Democrat, Republican, or no labels party. Okay. We have Braille ballots. We have large print ballots. Again, those are very long. They are almost as tall as I am. And we have very large print on them. You mark them up, and mail it back. We provide a very large envelope for you to return that in. I'm not joking, that is real. And we will signature verify that envelope. We will turn it over to the elections department. They will duplicate it, which is their normal process for any ballots that have been damaged, or somebody has coffee spilled on them, blood, all kinds of stuff. Who knows? Or maybe if they've written messages and it's confusing the machines of being able to tabulate, they will duplicate that. They actually, two people sit across from each other, have to agree on that process, and then they duplicate your ballot. We have military and overseas voting. This is also available if you are leaving the country. Let's say you're on a cruise ship, somewhere wonderful and tropical. You can actually vote via we have a portal. We will email you. You can actually, we used to have to print out the ballot, find a scanner, scan it back, send it. But now you can do everything through our portal. You can click on the choices that you want. You can review everything, and then you can sign with your personal device, with your finger. And it's very easy. So that option is open not only to military who are, if they're being actively deployed to another location, or, just even from like Pima County to Tennessee or something like that. They qualify. Or if you are out of the country during a voting period, you could qualify. It does require additional paperwork, but you can call our office and ask about that. So we even have the ability to send your ballot to space if you were an astronaut and need to leave the atmosphere.
How many do you have for that?
Pardon me?
How many people request that?
You know what? I wish. Come on, Mark Kelly. No, Arizona has sent at least one ballot to an astronaut, but it was Maricopa County that did it. So, yeah, it would be really, but it's still super cool that that's a possibility. So we can send that ballot anywhere. And again, I always throw out the cruise ship because you'd be surprised about how many times that comes up. Team voting, of course. If there is a reason that you are having difficulty leaving your home, or you know of somebody who's having difficulty of time leaving their home, and there is enough time, we want them to vote by mail. If that is the option, if that is available to them, please help them connect with that resource. However, if you are unexpectedly, let's say you're in the hospital on the week before election, and we're no longer able to mail you a ballot that's going to get to your home in time, and you don't know how long you're going to be in the hospital, and it's very clear that you're not going to be able to vote on election day, call us, because there could be an option, and I'm being very careful about that, because we carefully vet. Like if you were in the hospital and you received your ballot by mail and it's on your kitchen table, and your daughter can go pick it up and take it to the hospital for you, you're not going to qualify. However, if we have never sent you a ballot and you're stuck in the hospital, there is an option where we could come to you. We again deploy in bipartisan teams, and for this process, it can only be by state law a Republican and a Democrat. It has to be two members of the highest
Major.
the highest enrollment for the most major parties. So in this case, it's the Democratic Party and Republican. And so, like, let's say, for example, we have a Democrat and a Republican, and neither of them speak Spanish, but an independent does. We're going to have to send 3 people. It's very annoying. But that is an option. If you are having some kind of trouble, Angela, bye. It's so nice to see you. If you are having some kind of trouble, please call our office and we're going to troubleshoot with you. We're going to talk you through some of the options that maybe just aren't there, especially during an emergency. A lot of people forget about these things. And then, of course, we do have the ballot drop boxes. We currently have 3. We're working really hard to install more before the primary. I don't know if that's going to happen, but they will be there before the general.
When will you start listing those so we can kind of publish those?
Great question.
Let us know.
It's unfortunately, it's going to have to be, publication will likely be as soon as they're in the ground. And during the early voting period, I urge you to check on the options portion. We will, of course, make every effort to send out information to our community partners. So we'll make sure that this group is on that list of announcements for specific regions. So Green Valley and Sahuarita, you will get an email that says, we now have ballot drop boxes, or here's when your early voting options are. So we're working on building up a case, but right now I'm having to deal with other governments, and the boxes themselves cost at least $6,000 before freight. Before freight or taxes. That does not include the installation, nor any additional cameras. It's about 10 grand a piece. So we're working on it, we're trying. Yes.
What steps are taken to assure the security of those ballot drop boxes?
Oh, the ballot drop boxes, and I actually have a little flyer here to share a little bit more information about them. They're made of galvanized steel. They have anti-pry door hinges, so even a crowbar cannot get in there. All of the locks, we have unique locks that are star-shaped, and they're double-bitted and unique to just that box. So literally, I have a box, a set of keys that cannot be duplicated. I cannot use that on a different box. It's a logistical, it's very, yeah. We have them with U-shaped fasteners, and they are set in concrete. So you can't just have a rope thrown around them and pulled out. It is in the ground. And so, and we also don't have any exposed bolts. So if you think about like a USPS box, the legs that people can, tie a rope around those and, do some damage. Ours are completely in the concrete. We also have them on camera. We are not surveilling. That's important to know. I am not watching those 24/7. However, we can review footage if there is anything. But we have not seen any of that type of behavior anywhere in Pima County or Arizona. We had in Yavapai County, which is a very red county, see people who were paramilitary who were deciding to guard these boxes. And we are trying to push for legislation to not allow for that, because that is intimidating and that should not be part of our voting process. But they're very secure. And we also have waterless fire extinguishers installed in all of them. But also the opening, it's not like a wide opening like a post office box. It's a slit. It's a very small slit that's only big enough for a ballot. And actually, when we went to 2 ballot in the 2024 election, we had to double check to see would 2 fit. Would 2 fit? 2. Would it be able to, if an envelope had 2 ballots in it, would it still fit in the box? And it does, but it's a very narrow opening, so it's very secure.
Will there be an early voting site in Green Valley? Because I think that GVR has decided not to continue to do that. You used to be able to go to Green Valley Recreation, certain centers, vote. They've decided that's not what they want to do.
I don't believe so. Next week our sites they go to the Board of Supervisors, and then they will be published on our website. I don't know at this point. I do know that there is an early voting site in Sahuarita. I don't know about Green Valley, and I'm sorry. Sorry about that, I know, and that has been a difficult situation for us to find locations for people to vote. It's, people don't want to do it. It's wild.
Some more question?
Sure.
I'm looking at your, yeah. Could someone take something like that, push the straw and pour liquid into it?
There's a false ledge in there, so no.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. You got everything covered.
I mean, these are specifically designed for ballot drop boxes. It's not like a mailbox that was converted. These are specifically for ballots. And so these are the most innovative boxes, that we've seen that have been recommended to us by other counties. And other counties have had these ballot drop boxes for like 10 years or more. We are late to the game in Pima County. So, we're going to continue to expand, and, please be patient with us, but also we want to hear about where, recommendations of like what is actually working for you in your community. We are prioritizing Ajo this next cycle, cells. Oro Valley has a huge volume that we see at our locations during the early voting period, and so that's gonna help us. We are looking to have one at the University of Arizona, but the president of Arizona has been for voting early in person. You can vote early in person. You can drop off your ballot at an early voting site. You can vote early on an accessible voting device, which is actually how I choose to vote. You can do emergency voting. Emergency voting, if you want to vote on the Saturday or the Monday before election, and you look at our website and you say, oh, it's only for emergency voting, it's not an emergency, I just wanted to vote. And that qualifies. Nobody's going to ask you. We're going to ask you to sign a little form. We're required to do that by law. Sometimes our lawmakers make decisions that don't really make any practical sense. So those signed forms, we ask you to sign it. You literally decline. We still give you a ballot. But what we do with those forms is we stockpile them and we put them, they go into storage. They go through the records retention, and then after so much time they're destroyed. We do nothing with them, and it's ridiculous. And I have personally lobbied to try to get rid of the term emergency voting. All voting is emergency. Please come. If you need to come the Saturday before, the Monday before, yes, you are allowed. Nobody's going to ask you for your emergency, and my staff are bored, and they're waiting for you to come. I'm not even joking. It is so terrible because so many people are so scared that their emergency doesn't count, that we have lower turnout on those days because of the emergency sounds scary, right? And people feel like they have to justify. And so because of that, we have less people, and because of that, my staff is just like, why are we here? So they're very happy to see you, I promise. And of course, you can use the ballot drop box early. On election day, you can drop them off your mail ballot at a vote center. You can vote in person on election day with the election department, that's why it's yellow. You can vote in your car on election day. This is kind of rare, but if there's a situation in which maybe you had COVID and you felt like you couldn't walk into a place, you can flag down the marshal. The marshal comes outside every 15 minutes, or flag down another voter and say, I need some assistance out here. Or maybe you just broke your foot and you can't get out of the car without a really huge hassle. They will bring people out to you. I will tell you, it's going to be very hot. And it is hard for the staff to do that, but in extreme situations, they also want to be able to provide you that service when they can. Last thing, of course, is you can use our ballot drop boxes. And if you are not in line at 7 o'clock, we cannot take your ballot anytime after that. But if you're in line at 7 p.m., we have like a little sign that we put on the the rear windshield wiper of the last car, and we will say, this is the end of the line. So, please don't be late for your early ballots. Okay, next. Please sign up for our ballot alerts. This is either a text message or email, and you can do that by visiting our voter dashboard. It also, in your voter dashboard, you'll enter your own credentials, and you can take a look at like your voting history. Not who you voted for, but how you voted. If you voted early, what elections you're eligible for coming up. You can take a look at your phone number and your address and make sure everything's up to date. Next. And that's it. That's all I got for you. Yes. Looks like I have a couple questions. I'm not sure that we have time. Yeah, Judy?
Okay, hopefully a quick question. The president signed an executive order telling the post office to get involved in who got ballots, and is any of that actually having any impact?
No, the president does not have the authority to determine the efforts of local jurisdictions.
But does he have the power over the post office to tell them what to do? Are you talking about the most recent executive order? Well, it was a couple weeks ago or a month ago, I can't remember.
The Secretary of State and the Attorney General have come out against it and have filed suit against it. We cannot participate in anything like that without a legal reason to do so. So at this time, he made a really big announcement.
Okay. Well, what really scared me about it was, the other things in the executive order, not too much. But if he had, if he could force the post office, or somebody at post office liked him, the head of the postmaster, whatever, they could really screw up the election. I mean,
We do not, at this time.
Okay, before you leave, please come back if you're in District 2, and please sign our petitions. We really would appreciate that. Thank you very much.
We are not concerned with any of the president's very flashy statements at this time. Yes, the 75-foot limit is still a requirement by